Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting for Calaveras County. At this time, is there any public comments? Stacy? Madam Clerk.
So item 1 is closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, personnel matter, conference with labor negotiator Judy Hawkins, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, regarding Deputy Sheriff's Association, Sheriff's Management Unit, Service Employees International Union, and the Calaveras County Public Safety Employees Association negotiations.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Once again, I see no takers for public comments, so we'll adjourn to closed session.
No, we have a second item.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Number 2, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, Christopher Wilson versus County of Calaveras Workers' Compensation Appeals Board, case number CCVC-362477.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Once again, no public comment speakers, so we'll adjourn to closed session. Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting. I apologize for being a little late. Our closed session went a little bit longer than we thought. At this time, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you and welcome. Madam Clerk.
Okay. The report of closed session, item 1, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, personnel matter, conference with labor negotiator Judy Hawkins, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, regarding Deputy Sheriff's Association, Sheriff's Management Unit, Service Employees International Union, and Calaveras County Public Safety Employees Association negotiations. No reportable action was taken. Item 2, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, Christopher Wilson versus County of Calaveras Workers' Compensation Appeals Board, case number CCVC-362477. No reportable action was taken.
Thank you. At this time, we have any announcements by the board? Any announcements by staff? Seeing none, we'll continue. Ladies and gentlemen, this will be the time for public comment. So if everybody's clear on this, this is a general public comment period. This is the time to bring up any topic that is not on today's agenda. There will be another item-specific public comment period for each item on the regular agenda, and any items pulled from the consent agenda. So if you're here to talk about a topic or item that is on today's agenda, for instance, a consent agenda regarding the sheriff's office or something, please wait till we get to that item's specific public comment period to address the board. I now welcome public comments on topics not on today's agenda. Please step forward. Thank you.
So just one moment.
I'm sorry.
Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Minkler. I represent Wendy and Bruce Davison of the Black Bear Inn in Arnold. Wendy and Bruce can't be here today because they have a full house at their bed and breakfast. I appeared here at the Board of Supervisors meeting at the June 13th meeting to request that the board take immediate steps to remove the no parking signs on Oak Court in Arnold. It has been now over a month since the board first started hearing from the business community requesting that the signs be removed, but the signs are still there, and as far as we can tell, the county hasn't taken any action to remove the signs. The resolution to install the signs was initiated by Supervisor Oliveira at the request of one constituent. It is unclear to the business community why their voice doesn't have a similar weight, hold a similar weight. I remind the board that the board of the Greater Arnold Business Association, which represents the entire business community up in Arnold, requested that these signs be removed. We're asking that the board put this item on the next agenda. There's no reason to delay. The signs are already causing problems. At the 4th of July parade a couple weeks ago, people were forced to park on an adjacent street to Oak Court, causing a traffic jam, while Oak Court remained empty. The installation of the signs was completely discretionary and can be easily reversed. If any supervisor has a question as to whether there's sufficient time to put this on the next agenda, I remind the board that this issue was initially put on the agenda. The resolution to install the signs was put on the agenda less than 2 weeks prior to the meeting where the board voted on it. The Davisons and the Arnold business community will continue to push to have these signs removed until the board takes action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Doug Shin, resident of Arnold, a resident in the county since 1980, 30-year realtor working strictly in the Arnold area, broker, founder of Cedar Creek Realty in the last 10 years of my career, and I retired in 2014 after 30 years in the business. So I think I have a clear perspective on the Arnold area, the businesses, and specifically Cedar Center. If you were to ask anybody what the largest shopping area in Arnold is, I think people would say Meadowmont Center with Big Trees Market. In fact, the largest area for businesses is Cedar Center. Currently in Meadowmont, there's approximately 12 businesses operating with vacancies, some vacancies, of course. And in Cedar Center, there's 15 businesses operating with some vacancies. So the largest center is Cedar Center. And that's why it's called the heart of Arnold. It's right in the middle of town. It isn't at the end of town. It's a focus for our whole community and has been for as long as I've been in town. So, what I don't understand is that in most communities, cities, counties, the governing bodies take action to improve parking for businesses, to add parking for businesses. They spend millions of dollars on parking structures. They deal with parking issues all the time because businesses need parking in order to grow and succeed and pay taxes into your coffers. In this case, due to one person's request, you took action to remove parking that serves the entire area of Cedar Center. Not just one business, but over 15 operating businesses. Now, one of those businesses, notably Cedar Creek Realty, Eldorado Bank, Heart of Arnold Restaurant, Dogwood, Dentist, so on and so forth. So this makes no sense. You took action contrary to your own rules and regulations to put those signs up. I'm asking you to take them down. Take them down. Take what steps you need to do in an orderly fashion to be procedural and legal, and make your decision. One last thought. If the traffic study says there's no traffic going up and down that street, which I believe is the case, very little traffic, you don't need no parking signs. If there's a lot of
Thank you, sir.
traffic.
Your time's up.
If there's a lot of traffic,
Thank you,
you
sir.
don't
Your
need
time's
any
up.
parking signs.
Next speaker.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jenny Fuqua, and I'm the newly hired outreach coordinator for the Community Action Project and Calaveras Planning Coalition. For over 10 years, the Community Action Project and Calaveras Planning Coalition have worked to guide the county to complete legally valid plans, projects, and EIRs. Our comments were echoed by the California Supreme Court in April of 2017 in the Banning Ranch Conservancy case. On July 4th, CPC facilitator Tom Infusino sent you a letter explaining the case in detail. We have come up with a helpful acronym, ARISE, A-R-I-S-E, to help members of the Board of Supervisors remember the guidance from the Banning Ranch Conservancy case. A, analyze alternatives. In Banning Ranch, the court told local governments to meaningfully address feasible alternatives to the proposed project. The California Environmental Quality Act requires meaningful evaluation, analysis, and comparison of alternatives to the proposed project. Alternatives are designed to avoid or substantially lessen negative impacts. R, respond to comments. The court said that when residents and commenting agencies raised a concern early and often, the lead agency owed them a reasoned response. For example, with regard to the cannabis cultivation DEIR, both the public and public officials have raised valid concerns about funding of the ordinance to mitigate impacts. A county would be wise not to continue to disregard these comments on an EIR by sister agencies and concerned citizens. If a supervisor or commissioner is aware of defective responses to comments, it is their legal obligation not to support certification of the EIR until the responses are corrected. I, integrate CEQA and land use approval processes. In Banning Ranch, the court told local governments to integrate land use planning and environmental review procedures as clearly set out in CEQA guidelines. For example, back in 2013, the CPC urged the county to integrate into the general plan update county-wide programs for mitigation of impacts. Such an effort would improve the business climate, improve the local environment, and promote peace in local communities. S, state impacts without omissions or deferrals. In Banning Ranch, it was determined that the omission of information regarding an impact is unacceptable and ultimately prejudicial abuse. The CPC advised the county back in February that the General Plan Update EIR should provide sufficient analysis to allow decision makers to make a sound judgment. Additionally, it must reflect a good faith effort at full disclosure. E, explain controversies. In Banning Ranch, the court recognized that a disagreement among agency experts over an environmental impact may not be resolved during the environmental review process. As the CPC noted in scoping comments on the general plan DEIR back in February, these requirements are directly connected to the standard that the EIR reflect a good faith effort. Thank you.
Good morning, Bonnie
Morning,
Newman
Bonnie.
from Double Springs. You guys have been giving me a feeling, okay, and I had to pull out my dictionary and define what I was feeling, and I found, first word I found was oppress, to keep down by the cruel or unjust use of power or authority, to rule harshly, to tyrannize over, to overpower or subdue. That led me to another feeling that I found, and it was to suppress, to put down by force, to subdue, quell, crush, restrain, to eliminate or weaken. And then they gave me the final reference, and it was repress, to keep down or hold back, to restrain, to put down, to subdue, to control so strictly or severely as to prevent the natural development or expression. And I was getting this feeling in reference to public comments. A few years ago, y'all decided to change from 4 meetings a month to 2 meetings a month. and that limited our ability to express ourselves. And then you put on a half-hour limit at the beginning of the agenda where if we wanted to go longer than a half hour, we had to wait until the entire end of the day to express ourselves. And then finally, we got limited by a three-minute limitation. It used to be 5 minutes, unless there was so many people you knew it was going to go on and on and on and on. Then it became 3 minutes, just as a matter of policy. Well, I can't help feeling your suppression is giving me feelings of oppression and repression, and it's making me depressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Hard act to follow there, Bill.
Good morning. Yes, it is. Good morning, Bill Wilson, District 1, United States veteran. We celebrated the 4th of July this month, and I just want to take a moment to say how great it is to be in this country, to be born in this country, to have served this country, and the forethought of our forefathers to have rejected the authoritarian ruling of England and went to war for it. Also, I would like to thank Public Works again for its excellent job on Pool Station Road. By gosh, they've gotten to Circle 20, and it is now a pleasure to drive to Angels Camp, and it's even getting better to drive here to San Andreas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Brock Estes, Valley Springs. Once again, we're divided, sitting on each side in teams. One group wanted to continue to do things the way we've done it for hundreds of years, the other wanted to do something newer. But everyone upset about how long these games are taking. And so today, for this one day, I urge that we all join with each other and observe Major League Baseball's 2017 All-Star Game. Oh, you thought I was talking about something else, maybe.
I watched the game.
I will talk about something else, something old, something new. I was before you once more, and I want to echo it again. The previous board devolved into a series of 3-2 votes. Everything was 3-2, and it was always the same 3 and the same 2. And you don't even see that on the Supreme Court. Often judges vote together who don't vote together the majority of the time. One of the most egregious acts was a 3-2 vote raising the amount of money required to appeal a planning commission decision to the Board of Supervisors from $100 to $600. I'm sorry, that is not the intent of democracy. Democracy requires the consent of the governed and participation of the citizenry. And when you jack a price up that high, you take people out of the equation. I'd like to see this board begin with a 5-0 vote to restore that to a realistic amount. If you have to go to 200 because we've had inflation, I can understand that. But it doesn't have to jump 6 times. You're taking people out of the equation when you do that. So that's something you could probably very easily vote 5-0 and start a new kind of consensus between you. In the brief time I have left, let me just throw out a few things that have happened. Last time I told you that there was a suit in front of a Nevada judge by the liquor authority in Nevada because they wanted to retain exclusive rights to sell marijuana in the state of Nevada. Nevada's a smaller state. It's kind of, the same people know each other that run things. As it turned out, the judge agreed with them. And now the tax authority is stuck appealing the judge's decision. There's a lot, I'm just trying to show there's a lot of weeds out there besides the one we're talking about. In Oregon, the head of the marijuana division of the liquor authority, they do it through there also, was fired. Mainly for lying about what he probably did, providing insider information. There's a lot of stuff there that you haven't even yet considered that could happen. In Salinas, just briefly, the board decide.
sir.
No time for that.
3 minutes.
See you next
Thank
time.
sir.
Ben Stopper, District 5. I brought up on multiple occasions here at the Board of Supervisors and one occasion earlier this year at the Planning Commission that the community plan for Rancho Calaveras says no commercial uses shall be allowed within the community except in the old township of Jenny Lynn, the real estate office on 26, and in-home uses such as daycare, for example. In this case, I have to agree with Mr. Toffanelli's assessment that residential areas are not places for outdoor commercial marijuana, and it's a conflict with our community plan for our area and our CC&Rs. And I also would like to bring up two recent rulings by our Honorable Judge Healy. One was for M24, 17 CV 42331. They got a restraining order there from someone planting their plants this year. The other one was El Rancho Loma Serena Homeowners Association. That's under 16 CV 41942. The CC&Rs for these communities say properties are to be used for residential purposes only. So at this point, there's conflict there. The judge has ruled on that, and he sees that conflict. And I have to say that conflict falls in line with Rancho Calaveras also. And there's other CC&Rs. I think we should have vetted these registrations for cultivation further, and somehow it was bypassed moving forward, looking at what the communities wanted for their plans and their CC&Rs and everything. So I find conflict there with the urgency ordinance and how it's instated and what these communities' wishes and how they weren't upheld. Thank you, sirs.
Thank you.
Robert Macias, District 5. I believe we, the public, are capable of producing a cannabis ordinance. Through collaborative efforts and teamwork, we can build the dream of a stronger community. If anyone has a proposal, ideas, beliefs, information, facts, or data related to cannabis activity within Calaveras County, please send it to calaveраsunite@hotmail.com. I ask the board to share what they have been given with calaveраsunite@hotmail.com. If anyone would like to be involved with the authoring of the ordinance, contact calaveраsunite@hotmail.com. Together, we can create the vision of a higher quality of life. I'd like to leave off with some inspirational lyrics. Just a world we all must share. It's not enough to stand and stare. Is it only a dream? There will be no turning away. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Could I have just hold a minute? Are you okay? All right, thank you. I didn't know what you dropped.
I've been reading the sheriff's logs, and it's very interesting to see that they're now listing what their feeling is about what the person arrested has been ingesting. And I noticed that they're not just ingesting one thing, they're ingesting more than one thing. And when people take more than one drug, it has an exponential effect on the person that is using it. And therefore, it has an exponential effect on all of us. And because Californians have legalized marijuana use, a lot of people that might have been a lot more careful about using it are not careful now about using it. They bring their thing that they smoke and stick it in the planter, go into the gas station, come back out, pick up whatever it was, and go to their car. No, it was not a cigarette. And a lot of people are just a lot less careful about their use of marijuana now. And I just wanted to say this because I feel that would be much better for all of us if we have very, very strict rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers for public comment?
Good morning, Board. Bill McManus, Hanford Hill. There's a housekeeping item here I wanted to go through, and I know in public comments you're not allowed to respond to anything that I say, but there is no other way to address the item because it involves a closed session agenda, which again, you don't, if you have something to report out, you do, but we really can't ask anything about it. The comment I'd like to make is for the chair, and since you're dealing with the bargaining units for law enforcement, most of them and county employees, I'm wondering, do you feel that your immediate family member who is a member of the bargaining unit would put you in a position for a conflict of interest, or at least a serious appearance of impropriety, and how you've dealt with that? Because you will be listening and negotiating and making a decision based on a possible benefit to an immediate family member. I don't know how you'd be able to respond to that because it's a closed session item and public comments doesn't allow you to respond. Maybe you can figure out a way to let us know how you're handling that and why you feel you can continue on without that conflict being present. The other question I have is about something that is not on the agenda, and that would be item 25. When I first pulled the agenda, item 25 was, I thought, a great idea to have supervisors try to get things on the agenda, talk about things that they wanted to get on the agenda, be polled. I thought it was a terrific way for constituents to know what their supervisors are doing, that they would say, we want this on the agenda, we want to talk about it in the future, and then their constituents could get excited about it or talk about it or show up at meetings and things like that. Right after I got the agenda, within a couple hours, got an update on the agenda, and item 25 had disappeared. When I asked about it, I was told that the chair removed that item from the agenda. So I think it's a good idea to have it, but I don't know why it's not there, and maybe when we get to where the missing agenda item was, we can talk about that, unless it's been put on since the last time I got the agenda printed out. So anyway, that was my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers for public comment? Okay. Seeing none? Madam Clerk? Okay.
Consent agenda. The consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, is there anybody in the public here today would like to have any item from the consent agenda pulled?
12:15.
I'm sorry, could you identify who said that, please?
Al.
Oh, Al? 12 and 15? Any further requests from the public? That time, I'll bring it back to the board. Any board member wish to pull a consent agenda item? Any staff member? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to accept. Moved by Supervisor Clapp to accept the remainder of the consent agenda. Any second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Tofinelli. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for a vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed indicate by saying no. Motion carries 5-0, unanimous.
Excuse me. Item 12 is from Human Services. Authorize the board chair to sign the third amendment to a joint exercise of powers agreement and a memorandum of understanding for the participation in and operation of the California Automated Consortium Eligibility System, taking effect on September 1st, 2017.
Mr. Segala.
Good morning. Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. This is hard to understand. Operation of the California Automated Consortium Eligibility System. Could this be succinctly addressed as to its effect to the taxpayers? What is happening here? Why the third amendment? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Kristen Brinks, Health and Human Services. This item before you is a memorandum of understanding that all of the 40 counties are bringing before each of their individual boards. We utilize a joint powers agreement amongst a number of counties for the C4 system, which is our benefit determination system in social services. So it's the system that we utilize to determine eligibility for our CalFresh, our CalWorks, and our Medi-Cal programs. And it's been in place for a number of years. And what we're doing is the state is taking efforts to consolidate the systems to bring about additional efficiencies and to have the systems work statewide more, to work better amongst each other. Because right now there are currently 3 systems that we utilize statewide for eligibility determinations. Los Angeles County has one. There's a number of counties, 39, who utilize the C4, and then there's an additional CalWIN system. And the federal government has asked that we as a state move towards 2 systems and then move towards 1 system. So this item before you is to take us down that path. It's to take us to a 2-system process that we'll be utilizing amongst 40 counties by bringing in Los Angeles County to our fold, and then eventually making strides in the out years to move towards a single statewide system. And the taxpayers' effect, to address Mr. Segala's comment, we do anticipate a very, very, very minimal but potential savings in the amount we pay to utilize this system. Currently, when you bring Los Angeles County, the way that the amount that we pay for utilization of the system is determined, you're bringing on a much larger county who is going to be able to take on much of that administrative cost, because the costs are allocated based off of how many users, and we're obviously a much smaller county. So we anticipate a very, very minimal, but I'm going to say immaterial cost savings potentially, and that is pretty much all of the items that I can think of.
Thank you. Any further comments? Mr. Segala? If not, we'll bring it back to the board for comment. I see you're trying to, are you requesting to speak?
Well, I was gonna move the item, Chair.
Okay. I'll second it. Okay, moved by Supervisor Tofinelli, seconded by Supervisor Mills. No further public comment. Bring it back to the board. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed indicate by saying no. Motion carries 5-0. Unanimous. Madam Clerk.
Item 15 is from the Administrative Office to adopt a resolution authorizing the hearing officer to hear cannabis tax appeals.
Mr. Segala, you brought this, please?
Yes. Thank you. Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. We have a process now established to hear appeals from taxpayers. And I noticed that this resolution is authorizing a hearing office to hear cannabis tax appeals. If we're talking about cannabis tax appeals for property taxes, or are we talking about cannabis special taxes? And is there a conflict between our established system for hearing tax appeals and this new system? Thank you.
This item was brought forward from my office. The specific appeals that we're referring to are the tax from Measure C that was passed in November, which actually put some specific provisions in that law as to how those appeals would be handled. What happens then is once the tax collector sends out the tax bills, the registrant then has an opportunity to appeal first through my office, which is an initial review of the circumstances, whether we uphold the tax collector's ruling or not, then moves it to the next level, which is an appeals. The way it was originally constructed or viewed would be it would come to the Board of Supervisors. I think as of this point we have, and I'm looking at my assistant for the total number of appeals that we've received thus far.
Good morning, Brian Moss, Administrative Office. Correct, approximately 40 plus appeals thus far.
So with that number of appeals and looking at the Board of Supervisors workload and what that might do in terms of slowing the process down, we felt a more expedient route would be to take it through the hearing process. It's the same hearing structure that we have set up for the abatement process. The hearing officer is an attorney who is hearing the case. Again, I'm not affiliated with the county outside of a contract to be the hearing officer, hear the circumstances, and present then a ruling. So we felt that would be a more expedient way to deal with these appeals.
Okay. Further comment by the public? Comment by board or staff? I'm sorry, Mr. McManus.
Bill McManus again. I have a question about Measure C, and I don't know if the assessor's office is involved in it or just the tax collector. As I understand it, Measure C is a two-part tax system. One, you pay taxes when you plant. It's a planting tax or getting going. After that, there's what I would describe as a harvest tax. When the plants are cut and trimmed and all that, there's a certain fee that's supposed to be assessed on that. That's kind of the way I read it. Since many of the grows in this county aren't your traditional outdoor grow that has a regular growing season, you plant it and you harvest. They're continuous grows. There's continuous harvest. There's money and product moving through the system. And I was wondering if someone could explain that, or if that's, if I misread Measure C, I apologize, but that's the way it looks to me, that there's another portion of tax supposed to be coming. And maybe someone could explain how that's working, or if there's been any tax collected for that tax that was coming later. Thank you.
The tax is actually based on what the registration application stated. So as an example, if somebody came in and applied for a registration and they identified 22,000 square feet, that is what the tax is based on. It is not based on, and this is where there's been a lot of confusion, it is not based on the actual cannabis square footage of what the grow actually is, but rather that it is based on the what the application cited.
And Chair, I would just like to clarify, Measure C is an excise tax. It's not a harvest tax, it's not a planting tax, it's an excise tax. The ability for somebody to be able to grow. The first portion of it is based on square footage that they registered for, and then, as you're aware, Measure C allows for, if and when the state has a track and trace program that is up and running, it would convert to per pound.
Okay. Further comment?
Bill Wilson again. Well, you kind of got done already. It's $2 a square foot on the amount that you registered, and it's a 7% for the dispensaries. It's also 7% on manufacturing, which is not allowed under the UO. So basically, there's still a prong of Measure C that hasn't been gotten to because we haven't allowed it yet. So one of my questions would be, on the appeals for the assessment, are those from people who basically haven't made it through the registration process yet, and so therefore aren't really permitted? And so they're saying, why do I have to pay this tax because you haven't even got me a registration yet? Just my thoughts.
A fair number of ours, and my assistant can correct me if I'm incorrect, but a fair number are put in an application that says you're going to do a canopy size of 50 by 50. I'm just throwing it out there. And then they end up doing a canopy size that's significantly smaller than that. So there's the discrepancy between what the actual grow ultimately was versus what was put in on the application. That's, I think, the significant one. It's not necessarily waiting based on the urgency ordinance. If they're still in that pending status and review, then they still receive the tax bill, and they would still be expected to pay it while they're pending the permitting.
That is correct.
Okay. Further comments by the board or staff? No more further comments from public comment? Seeing that, we'll bring it back to the board. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Chair.
Moved by Supervisor Mills.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Tofinelli. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed indicate by saying no. Motion carries 5-0, unanimous.
Item 20 is from the Administrative Office to receive a report from staff, Cal OES, and local organizations regarding the ongoing Butte Fire recovery.
Good morning.
Ladies
Brian
and
Moss.
gentlemen, Mr. Moss, if I could beg your indulgence, please. We're going to take a short break at this time, 15 minutes for our clerk and staff. They've been at it since about 7:30, maybe 7, and we'll resume in about 15 minutes. Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Okay, so we are on item 20, which is from the Administrative Office, to receive a report from staff, Cal OES, and local organizations regarding the ongoing Butte Fire recovery.
Good morning.
Morning, Mr.
Brian
Moss.
Moss, Administrative Office again. This is your monthly update. This is a little confusing maybe to some because we just did this at the last meeting as well, primarily because of preliminary budget at the first part of the last month. So today, again, this is your opportunity to ask questions, inquiries regarding what's happening with Butte Fire recovery. Just so the board is aware, I generally send out an email blurb, and I did as well for this meeting as well, reminding different agencies, different departments, should they have something to share with the board, this is their opportunity. So with that said, I know there's a couple of people here to talk to you about the latest on Butte Fire recovery updates. So thank you.
Sir.
Jeff Krovitz, Public Works. Not a lot has changed since the last report, except that we are continuing with the hauling, the gathering, the hauling of the debris down to the management site in Wallace. We are down to our last 5 to 7 days on the current scope of work. So we expect that and the punch list to be completed within a week. The debris management site has been grinding for a little while, and we expect it to go no more than 10 days. And at that point, the debris management site will be disassembled. And opened up some discussions with FEMA on the subsequent phases that we hope to execute. But that is essentially the end of the report for tree removal. Any questions?
Question from the board? Supervisor Garamendi?
I saw a letter that you sent down to Caltrans regarding including the for the Butte Fire roads.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we were talking about trees first. I
Doesn't matter.
I just jumped
Go
ahead.
for it.
On the roads, and it was including the culverts and including the winter 2017 storm damage, combining those two, does that put at risk the Butte Fire Road project as we close up on that deadline?
I don't think it does. It is a question of being able to manage. This is essentially the management contract to categorize, measure, and prepare construction contracts. The construction contracts will be segregated by disasters.
Okay.
But for this management contract, we believe that it makes sense, rather than us attempting to do 5 or 8 contracts to manage the multiple programs with each individual disaster, that would be a nightmare for staff here to be able to provide our oversight.
I agree, and as we discussed, I'm all for digging once, so.
Okay.
Thank you. Supervisor Tofinelli?
Yeah, I do have a couple questions. Jeff, there are some trees that are kind of in limbo right now that have not been removed, that could be possibly removed at a later date?
Yes, there are. There are approximately 500 trees along county right-of-way that have died since our arborist assessments started in June of 2016. Additionally, there's about 1,500 trees on the properties that were included in the initial program, right of entries, that the contractor has already gone on and cut, that additional trees have since died on those same parcels. I prepared a document and forwarded it off to Cal OES and FEMA, notifying them of those, and am hoping for a response on how those are included into the NEPA clearance, because we cannot proceed with cutting additional trees until we have NEPA clearance on those. And then finally, there are 2 other additional categories of trees that are still out there that I don't have a feeling for whether it would be included in this program or not. One category is requests for participation in the program that have arrived since we essentially closed the right of entry parcels in October of 2017. And there's about 20 some odd parcels that have provided us right of entries that encompass about 500 trees.
So we are still staying on top of that. We don't have a time frame with FEMA coming back to us, giving us the authority to do so, or?
That's generally not how they're geared to operate outside of NEPA clearance. They're geared to operate that we make the choice, we determine eligibility, and we move ahead, and then we seek reimbursement. So it is a risk.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions of Mr. Krovis? Seeing none, any staff questions? Thank you, Mr. Krovis.
Thank you.
Sharon Torrance, Butte Fire Recovery Information Officer. Good morning.
Morning, Sharon.
Since we're coming to a close of what we're calling phase 1 of the burnt tree removal, the hazard burnt tree removal, Mr. Krovitz and I have decided next week after our meeting, we will put out a press release with final numbers and the fact that phase 1 is complete. And so that'll go out probably midweek next week. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Thank you. Questions of Ms. Torrance? Seeing none? Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Any further staff report on this agenda item? Seeing none? We'll bring it back to the board. Madam Clerk.
Item 21 is from the Board of Supervisors to receive a presentation regarding a proposed education initiative for Calaveras youth.
Gentlemen, I'm going to make a request that you identify yourselves when you speak.
Okay.
Let our folks in TV land and our folks know the prestigious presenters we have. Oh, and please speak into the microphone.
Better now?
Face recognition.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to share this information with you and for us to lighten the mood a little bit. This is all positive. This is all good. We're not asking for anything other than your consideration to be a partner in our efforts. We will introduce ourselves by name here shortly and talk. The purpose today is to introduce ourselves, but also to explain why we're here, what the work that we're engaged in, and what we would like to ideally have you consider in terms of joining this partnership. This represents a partnership of educational entities, community entities, hopefully governmental entities, really focusing on creating opportunities for students, creating opportunities for young adults to become better prepared to join the workforce, to expand the workforce in our communities and otherwise, and again, create opportunities to help students grow by partnering with the multi-agencies that we are working with. I'm Mark Campbell, Superintendent, Calaveras Unified School District, and we'll do introductions along the way, jump into our brief presentation, and entertain any questions that you might have.
Good morning, Michael Chimeni, Superintendent, Bret Harte Union High School District.
Morning, Michael.
Good morning, Paul DiBaldo, resident Calaveras County.
Paul.
Good morning, Dave Taney. I'm Executive Director for Motherlode Job Training and incoming Director for Central Sierra Economic Development District.
Dave.
Larry Cope, CEO for the Tuolumne County Economic Development Authority, the Economic Prosperity Council of Tuolumne County, and the Innovation Lab, and the outgoing Director of the Central Sierra Economic Development District.
Larry.
So under the umbrella of the Calaveras Workforce Development Initiative, and you have the packets in front of you, we also have information at the podium if anybody from the audience would like to see copies of the slides that we'll be going through. We'll give a moment for that. The board was given information from Mr. DiBaldo prior to this meeting. A lot of that information has to do with the funding sources that are being allocated to help drive this effort. And again, it's a partnership moving towards a strong workforce development for our students, but also for young adults in our community. The information that you see on this particular slide has to do with the funding that is being provided primarily to community colleges, who we again are working with as part of this partnership. You received the more detailed aspects of this information prior to, so I won't dive into the details, but I think what it shows is a growing commitment at the state, county, and local level, tremendous motivation, tremendous money, quite honestly, being invested into this effort for career tech education. That's resulting in a significant amount of momentum from the state on down that puts us in a position then to partner with these entities and come to you asking for support and participation so that we can further the work to be done to create opportunities for kids and young adults in our district.
You know, currently, as this slide indicates...
Excuse me, could I have you speak with the microphone?
I have to speak in the microphone?
Yeah.
All right, Michael. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay, Michael.
This slide indicates currently what both of our high schools are doing. You know, one of the things that we do is educate students, and we don't toot our own horns, but what you see up there is something that's probably unique to a lot of comprehensive high schools, and that's comprehensive CTE programs. You know, the first one is our ag programs, and I look at your pictures behind you, and it speaks to our heritage, and both high schools have very strong ag programs that help not only ensure the continuation of ag in our county, but also the further education of our students who want to go into vet or in the agricultural business. The second is health science and medical technology. I don't even need my glasses to see that. That's pretty cool. you know, and that is probably one of the bright spots that we have. Jan Smith, who recently retired from our medical program, really set the stage for our young folks who wanted to go into the medical field, giving them hands-on experience. You know, most of these courses that you see deal with hands-on classroom and then some real-world experiences, and that really speaks to the medical profession. Transportation, you know, both high schools have auto shop programs that are NATEF certified, where our students who would choose to could go out into the workforce and find a job. You know, most do seek other educational opportunities prior to doing that. Protective services, the police science course, the fire tech courses, the EMS courses that are presented at both high schools help prepare our students. And then finally, the retail hospitality is all that culinary arts. But, you know, with all of that said, all we can do is bring our students to a certain level. And what we're looking for is that next step for our students. And as Mark indicated, you know, it's what we do in education. But, you know, when we move forward with this initiative, our hope is to provide not only additional training for our students, but also for some of our community members who are looking maybe to change jobs or to find a job. And again, you know, our thought is that if we can keep them homegrown, they'll stay, and that'll help all of us grow. So,
Thank you.
So on this slide, you're looking at the emerging industry sectors. Now, we at the two schools are in part involved with our kids in some of the classes, but in the large part, these are courses, these are sectors that are taking place at the community colleges, namely Columbia College, Delta College, and Modesto. And there are other colleges as well, but these are fast-growing industries of which, to some degree, we'd like our youth to be a part of, particularly advanced manufacturing, transportation and logistics, and small business entrepreneurship, as well as energy, construction, and water and utilities. Now, my role here has been in contact with the community colleges, working with the two superintendents here, and finding out how they can communicate with us and take our students on and take them on a career path into these advanced industries. We won't go to one community college for all of these, but they each have their specialty. And I would say, without exception, these are all double-digit growth industry sectors, which we should want our children to be a part of, in addition to the ones that Mike just talked about. The next slide. Okay. So, yes, we want to harness the resources and achieve 21st century career opportunities for our youth and for unemployed people in Calaveras County. And you see here, and the reason why we're here is the Workforce Development Initiative, the Calaveras Workforce Development Initiative, is putting together, or bringing together these sectors, these elements, that is the county high schools, and hopefully the county supervisors, and selective regional community colleges, which I just mentioned a moment ago. Also, mother-lode workforce development, you're going to hear from Dave in a moment, but that's a major plus to what we're about. That wasn't with us here 90 days ago. And Dave's going to talk about what he's going to do for us in terms of his role as executive director at Mother-Lode Workforce Development Board. And in addition, we have Larry Cope, who's behind me here. He'll be hearing from him. Larry Cope is a very successful business development guy, which I kind of like to think I am as well, but in a different context. Larry has done a lot of things in Tuolumne County that we would like to emulate and use as a template, particularly his innovation lab. And so we have, she's not here today, but Michelle Stevens is going to be a part of this group in terms of this workforce development group.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, for you spatially oriented individuals, we're going to show a graphic that sort of represents what we're talking about here. And there's a few elements to this, overriding themes, but we'll start with the beginning of what we're trying to do, which is to be more demand driven. And so over here is represents an industry cluster. We already talked about some existing and emerging industries. Each of these industries will define a cluster of businesses and suppliers and a whole ecosystem around that industry. And we're doing outreach to those industries to understand really what their needs are when it comes to workforce development and employment. So they're going to tell us what are their key occupations. And we're already developing this, and we have some of these career or these industry sector pathways sort of defined. They'll tell us what are the key occupations, and they'll tell us what are the skills necessary for those occupations. And so as we reach out and we listen to these industries, this group here within Calaveras County, and by the way, Motherlode Job Training has responsibility across 4 counties, and so we're rolling this up on a regional level. But within Calaveras, this is a really important initiative to have the local teams working together. So this local workforce development initiative will have members, as you can see, they're standing up here, and other members from business, from workforce development, from education, both pre- and post-secondary education, economic development, labor. So this will be a convening of industry stakeholders that will listen to what the needs are, and then we will deliver through a career pathway system solutions to those challenges. So at the high schools, we'll work with developing the right curriculum that will lead to perhaps some future classes and training. Adult basic education, workforce training is what my organization does. We don't have universities in our area, but certainly what we're doing can lead to university education. But the community colleges, and also down here the labor unions through their apprenticeships and internship programs. So if we're listening to industry, we're convening and deciding how we're going to solve the solutions, and then work together as a group. That's, I think, another thing to take away from this graphic and from this meeting today, is that these are all groups that perhaps might have worked in silos in the past, and we're all working together because we realize that it takes all of us joining forces and aligning around the same objectives and the same career pathway system. So if someone, let's say, starts in workforce development initiative and enters the workforce, while they're working, they can at the same time be retraining, say, to earn a college certificate or an AA degree to move themselves up. So employment isn't a binary thing. It's not just do you have a job or do you not have a job. We want to work with the local the workforce community to make sure that as you enter the workforce, you have the ability to work your way up the ladder and understand within any industry sector, what is the next step up? If you're at this level, how do you get to this level? And while you're working, you're going to be earning certificate or entering an apprenticeship program or whatever it might be. Work-based training is just as important as earning a certificate or a degree. And if you talk to the local employers, they'll tell you, I want people that work hard, that have the right soft skills, and can work with us. We'll help them move up the ladder. We'll help train them, but just get someone on the ladder and show them how they can move up one rung at a time. So that's where we're all working together as a team to help the workforce understand what it takes to climb that ladder of success. And then as they enter the workforce, we follow the cycle where we get now additional information from business, and it's just a never-ending cycle of feedback and corrective action. So that's the model. Good job. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I might add something to that. One thing about the particular model, and is something that we've done over in Tuolumne County, is, again, with a primary focus on what jobs are out there and what businesses are out there. Because, if the newest, hottest craze is coders, and we're training tons and tons of students to be coders, but we don't have a coding job up here for them, it's a disconnect. So what we've done is worked very closely in Tuolumne County, and this is happening here in Calaveras County with every business. And that's part of the question is, what do you need? What levels do you need? And then introducing them to this workforce partnership where basically they can bring somebody in at a high school level, AA degree level, they can do a CTE program, they can come in at different levels, plug into the company, but the company is in partnership with this whole education partnership to say, okay, I'm now going to send so-and-so back to a welding class, or I'm going to send somebody to here. We're going to do on-job training. And so what it does is you match your jobs up with your trainings. And then what you do is then you venture out into the new areas, which we saw back on one slides, on the advanced manufacturing. A lot of people don't think about it, but we have a number of very advanced manufacturers up here in the Motherlode. We have companies that make software, hardware. We have individuals who make ovens that actually cook chemicals onto silicon chip manufacturing and are used in the silicon chip manufacturing process. There are high-tech jobs up here, but they may not be training 20 people. So it doesn't fit into your customary college program. It's 2 employees that need to be trained here, or 1 employee. And by integrating all of this into one, you meet the workforce needs to grow those high-tech businesses, but also you're filling those other major industries that we have up here, which is tourism and many others.
So, with that said, let's tell you what we have planned for focus is with the industries that were just mentioned. I have been making contact with industries. I have several industries that are participating in a scholarship fund that my wife and I created 6 years ago, and we've awarded over 52 kids here going to career technical school for some of these industries. But we need to do a lot more of that. And we need to leverage what we have going with the high schools and leverage what's going on with the community colleges and what industry needs. We're in a transformation process. You saw from the material we sent you in advance, the whole education system, both statewide and federal-wise, and certainly locally, is in transformation. And we intend to leverage that and get our kids on a career path that allows them to participate in this transformation in the 21st century. Our goals then are be consistent with what are needed in the 21st century and establish recognizable workforce development achievement. We'd like to be recognized. In fact, one of the reasons why we'd like to have you, the supervisors, as a part of this team is we need to communicate to parents and to the people and citizens of Calaveras that this is a workforce development effort. It's not just training kids, getting jobs. We're creating a workforce development which is in tune with what's going on in the country, what's going on in the world. I think that's all I'm going to say on that slide.
I'll take this one. So looking beyond 2019, obviously we want to attract many different elements and sectors to come in and strengthen our community, strengthen our effort. We would love to, in this, with what Larry's established in Tuolumne County, to develop an innovation lab, to develop a place, the first goal, where high school students and post-secondary students who may be out, or former students who are out there floating, to come in and hands-on, gain some skills that will make them more employable, more marketable, and strengthen that school to community and that wandering young adult to employment kind of a movement. The workforce development, and I think Paul said it so well, this is a much more global effort than just training kids to get a job. This will benefit students, this will benefit young adults, it will benefit the community. So it's gathering information from all the people that are involved in the consortium, in the partnership, and finding out what best serves the community, what best serves our students, how do we work together to create those opportunities. So those would be our goals above and beyond. And we have one more slide that I know I want Dave to be able to go through, but as we talk about short-term and long-term goals, and we talk about the aspects of this partnership and our functionality, it's what we believe it's critical to have members, to have the entire board supportive, but also a member involved as a representative on this entity, this partnership that would meet quarterly. So, we would ask respectfully that you consider a resolution to indicate that support. We would also ask that you respectfully consider having a member serve as a representative on this. Paul has been a tremendous convener, and that would really be his role of pulling all these different elements together and plugging them in to these meetings and to the work to be done in between meetings and after meetings to further our goal to strengthen this for, again, our kids, our young adults, and our community. It is part of a larger picture, and so Dave?
I would say, I'd like to add one thing. The highlight of that was the first 2 years is that focus. If you put that slide back, that's the next 2 years. We're really focused on primary focus, okay?
Into the mic ball for me.
Excuse me. So for the next 2 years, our primary focus is what I show up there in terms of the two bullets. And then think in terms of what we're trying to do over a 3 or 5 year time. This is not a 6 month, 1 year effort. This is a long-term effort. We think with the collaboration that we have, with your involvement, we will have momentum to move in this direction.
Thank you.
So this slide is another way to illustrate what the career pathway concept looks like. So as I said before, we're trying to be more demand-driven. The businesses define, they're the employers. They're the ones that ultimately are going to hire people. It's not the goal to grant certificates and degrees. It's the goal of education, for instance, to help people start a career. And so starting at the bottom, this is sort of a sawtooth pattern here where someone starts in their first job in a career path, might be an entry-level job. It may or may not require some kind of credential. And then while they're working this job, they're working their way up to the next level. Maybe they didn't earn their high school degree, so they're working to get their high school degree. And when they get that degree, that moves them into another career pathway with a potentially earning a certificate or a diploma, and working your way up to a 2-year degree and a 4-year degree. And a lot of these are work-based training opportunities, apprenticeships, and other systems where, like I said before, as you're working, for instance, if you're in the healthcare industry, you might come in as just some sort of tech or administrative role, and then earn a certificate to do the blood draw, what's that called? Phlebotomy, thank you. And then you work your way up, and once you have that job, you're working your way through an AA degree to maybe work your way up to a physician assistant or something like that. So each one of these has a pathway. We're defining it in conjunction and with all of our partners, and we'll have these defined for each sector and work not only to help the businesses serve their needs, but also the job seekers as they work their way up the ladder, and hopefully keep our ecosystem strong here in this region so people don't feel like they have to leave here to go find good jobs down in the valley or in the Bay Area. So that's one of the main goals, is to create our own sustainable ecosystem here.
And one last thing, you might say, okay, well, how does workforce, or why does workforce really tie into economic development? Because, a lot of the times people think about economic development is, hey, we're bringing new businesses in, or we're adding more jobs in the community. It's really about wealth building. And what wealth building means is for every citizen. So that means individuals come in and open up companies, or they expand companies. So they build infrastructure inside your community. They build their factories, so on and so forth. But this is the other and the most important part of it, is you're helping your local citizens go through this ladder step of the eventual goal that they're making more money. The reason why you want low unemployment is it actually pushes wages up in a community. And as it pushes wages up, people make more money. As people make more money, they can provide more things for their family. So workforce and economic development go hand in hand. You have to have the workforce, or you won't attract the business. And if you don't have the businesses, you don't have the workforce. The workers will follow where the jobs are at. And that's what they've been doing for the last 10 years. And so the goal is you have to bring these both up at the same time. And with that, you end up increasing the wealth in your community, not only through bringing more businesses here or helping the current ones stay here or expand, but also by raising the wages in the community of the people who live here.
Thank you.
And just one more thing. You've heard a lot about Common Core, the new testing, but there are two components to that, and that's why Mark and I are excited about jumping on this train. One of them is college ready, and the other is career ready. And for a lot of our folks, becoming career ready is a choice that they may not even have thought about in the past. And so when we start to create career pathways for them, and we embrace and enhance our CTE programs, it's going to allow us to serve our student population that may have been underserved in the past. And I think that's why Common Core hits both of those components. You know, we do a great job of getting our kids college ready. We want to even do a better job of getting our kids career ready. And the state has recognized the importance of career awareness and career training, and that's why they're filtering so much money down to our local governments and community colleges.
So as you consider whether you'd want to be a partner with us or not, I'd just like to share with you where we think we're going with that, or we'd like you to go. A, we'd like you to have one of your board members meet with us. We're probably, at this time, we're thinking once a quarter, the total collaboration would meet and go over where we've been and where we're going. Secondly, and probably more importantly in terms of the long term, is we'd like to have you as the voice, the supervisor is the voice of communication with the citizens and with the families, particularly the parents. This is an initiative that's ongoing. Of course, we can't talk about progress until we make some more, but that's an important part of the communication. In light of what we heard earlier this morning of some of the challenges you have, this should be a fun thing to talk about. It should be a positive thing, and the citizens would revere you for it. Thank you.
So we thank you for the time. We thank you for the opportunity. Clearly, there's motivation and there's money behind this, and there's a partnership, and that equates to momentum. So we look forward to your partnership, your support, ideally moving forward, your representation. And again, we thank you for the time today.
Thanks. Questions by the board? Well, I've got a comment I'd like to make. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul DeBaldo and I have been working on this project for the last year and a half. And I am impressed by this presentation and the people making it and the dedication. This is something we've needed in this county for a long, long time. And yes, I'm very supportive of this. And depending on the action of the board, I think we ought to really consider being part of this future, if you will. Supervisor Mills, you had a comment?
Yeah, unfortunately, this isn't an action item for today, so we'd have to bring it back as an agenda item for future discussion. But I likewise have had a lot of conversations with you gentlemen, so I think we know where we're needing to go. And the key piece is going after those young folks that haven't really decided their passion in life. And if we can pick them up and get them interested in something, then that gives them that opportunity that would keep them out of possibly the welfare system or staying in a low-income job the rest of their life and really not achieving any full potential. I know some of those also are because they're bored. It isn't because they don't want to, it's just that they haven't found that piece. As you know, your young folks today, we have to admit clearly, they have multiple career paths in their life. They're not going to be in the same thing their entire life, like many folks. I have a former employee that will be retiring tomorrow, 47 years with one company. That is just unheard of in today's world. But what we need to provide them is those base skills. I know that, Dave, you talked about soft skills, and that's my passion, is that when you start to get into mid-level management or upper management, it isn't anymore your ability to understand the technical aspects. It's how well do you work with other people to motivate other people and give them the desire to succeed as you have. And I know, Mr. DeBaldo, you know full well because you've been in the middle of that for many years. I have been to hacker labs. I've been through maker programs. I've seen the innovation lab. These are the places that we can give them an opportunity to get some hands-on and decide, this is something I want to do. This is something I like to do. But if we never give them that experience or that ability to see it, it will be something that may never be touched. So these are the pieces that are going to be able to give us the opportunity to take our young people that are right on that edge and pull them up and make them a productive member of our society here locally, rather than allow them just to slip into an abyss. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and this needs to continue, and I would like to see this as an agenda item that we discuss as an action item in the future. Thank you.
Further comments by the board? Supervisor Garamendi?
Thank you very much. I think this might be the only committee, the nomination process that this board's ever gone through. People are going to argue about to try to get on the committee. I want to thank you guys very much for your work as well. And I know that when I talk to employers down in San Joaquin County, they love our kids as they come with a little bit of grit and they know how to work. And so it's great to put them in the programs. And I was happy to see that you're also working with organized labor to sort of get kids show them a different route where they can make a really good living. I hope that we get a chance to, when we partner with you guys on this program, assuming we partner with you, that we really take into account also county employment. We're the largest employer in the county, and we have ongoing needs. So finding ways that we could set up internships between Bret Harte and Calaveras and our county is really important. I know when I talk to kids and they're interested in the Earth Club, talking about, I see Mr. Banner in the background, sitting there and telling them, hey, look, there are things you could do for your own county and stay here and work, and we could help you put a path together where you could have a career working for your county government or ag or animal services, and show them a path that help them find the entry level, work on their education, and move up and do their career in their hometown. So if we could work on that together, it'd be really valuable. I know that I've got lots of kids that would hop at this opportunity. I know there's always technical issues to work out, but hopefully that can be part of our program as well. But thank you guys, great work. And Paul, thank you very much for driving this.
Supervisor Tofinelli.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming and working very hard on this. I got a little story to tell here. Many years ago, back in 1970, 71, I was a product of a similar situation. It was called Manpower Development Program. And it trained people just like we're talking about doing here. It took young kids and it took people that graduated high school or didn't graduate high school and gave them abilities and trained them in different areas of the workforce and put them out in the workforce. Myself, I was trained to be a certified welder. Went to school, got certified, and got a job as a certified welder. Otherwise, I would not have been able to do that. So I understand the concept here, and I understand what it could be done here for the kids, and not only the kids, but other workforce areas here that we can talk about involving in this program. So I'm very much behind it. I'd like to see it be successful. I would like Mr. Supervisor Mills has said, bring it back to us as an action item so we can vote on it. I think it's very viable. I think it fits into, and we just had a little note passing here with the CAO, we have, this board has chose to finance a economic development director for the Calaveras County in this coming year, and I think he would fit very well into this, and it would benefit Calaveras. So thank you for bringing this program to us.
Further comments? We're not done yet, so folks, we have public comment.
Well, and I was just going to say one thing here real quick, a couple of things. First is, even though I'm stepping down from the Central Sierra Economic Development District as your management group, and Motherlode Job Training is now taking that over, I will still be part of that group. And so it's going to be, you won't lose the connectivity that we have between all the communities, and we're looking forward to working with you on this particular project because it helps not only Calaveras County, but it also helps Tuolumne County, Amador County, Alpine County, but it will be focused on things that you guys will be doing here. And I'm also very glad to hear that you're looking forward to bringing on possibly some kind of staff for economic development because each one of our communities does need that.
Mr. Cope, I sit on those committees. I'm going to hold you to that.
Oh, yes. I forgot I volunteered for that, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. It's on tape. Any further comments by the board or staff? I'd like to open up to public comment. Artie?
Well, this is just way too exciting. We get disappointed in our things that happen or whatever, and then all of a sudden something fabulous happens and it refuels our soul. So I just want to say thank you to this visionary team and everybody that was involved with bringing this to us today. I wanted to say that over the years, when I would inquire about how to assist with this and that to support our schools, the response was always, and rightfully so, that our Calaveras schools are separate from county government. But then the conversations would end. And so this is a banner day for all of us, and it is now all hands on deck. And that just doesn't mean all these hands that are here and all the paid staff, that sort of thing. This is all hands. This is all community. Our citizenry is rich with expertise and experience. We're surrounded by retired CEOs, inventors, scientists, and there's a place for everyone to engage. There are opportunities everywhere, and one that comes to mind for me is the Youth and Family Center in Valley Springs, where a makers club is evolving, and it's very exciting. It's calling all scientists and inventors, both experienced and wannabes. We all have to start somewhere. I want to throw out that recently I took a beginning water management course at Calaveras High, and the instructor said that this water industry is ripe for women. There are very few women in the water industry. It's good pay, full benefits. They can almost write their own ticket to success. I just want to throw this out to any young woman who has good math skills. Check it out. You live in the middle of the watersheds, the Sierra Nevada, and we are responsible for a lot, and you can be part of that. So at the Volunteer Center, we always say when the community comes together, magic happens, and I think we're looking at some magic today. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mark. Bill?
Bill Wilson, District 1. I didn't hear anything mentioned about Mountain Oaks, which is one of the most excellent homeschooling programs in the state of California, possibly the United States. We have a graduate now attending community college at Columbia who was part of the academic team there that went to state regional for 2 years running, almost 3 while he was there at that school. One of the things that also wasn't mentioned is the continuation group that's over at the same location there with Mountain Oaks. I was very disappointed to see the aquaponics garden that was started a couple of years ago through whatever reasons seems to have been dismantled, either because of theft, lack of interest, lack of instruction, maybe lack of money, I'm not sure what. But aquaponics is a very, very viable industry for not only Calaveras, but anywhere. 2,500 square feet of an aquaponics garden can furnish fish, shrimp, and vegetables for a family of 5 for life. 2,500 square feet. It's a pretty good deal. Anyway, thank you very much. I hope that Mountain Oaks and the continuation group, continuation especially, those are the guys that really need these kind of programs, especially the CTE, because they're probably the ones that aren't going to graduate from high school. Good projects.
Thank you, Bill.
I'd just like to say that the scholarship funds for career and technical education, we've awarded 3 of the 52 kids were from Mountain Oaks.
Okay, great. Mr. Stopper.
Ben Stopper, District 5. I fully support something like this. I have a story somewhat like Gary's is in 2009, I was laid off from my construction job. And I took a new avenue, as Marty suggested, in water. I had to put it all together myself. So I'm sitting there, first time in my life I start collecting unemployment because I can't go back to work at construction jobs that aren't happening. So then I went to Motherlode job training in Jackson. They helped pay for my books and my class. I went to Sac State and got through all the training, and within a few months, I was volunteering in McCalmy Hill and Valley Springs Public Utility District to get my operating and training time out of the way. By March of 2010, I had a job with CCWD. And this is the type of actions that mother load job training and this type of thing will help do. And I have a great job now, and this is a phenomenal thing. I'm glad you all support it.
Thank you.
Hello, Board. Trevor Whitkey, District 2. I just want to express my support for this program as well as a Mountain Oaks graduate and somebody who grew up here. A lot of my friends had to leave the area, and the other friends that I have, they've mostly had to go into construction and other hard labor. And creating the skill set and building the opportunities early in our schools across the board, Mountain Oaks, Calaveras Unified School District, Bret Harte, etc. It's really a great program, and I encourage it and want to be part of anything that I can to support the schools in this system. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As you can tell, I'm really shy about coming up and speaking. No, I just thought I'd kind of bring everything back around full circle. If you think about the gentleman that came up and talked about the water school, we now have a water school in our innovation lab. Columbia College actually hosts now a water school that has training every Saturday, and then they integrate into the local TUD, Tuolumne Utilities District, Groveland Community Services District, so on and so forth. So that's kind of where the innovation lab, the training, the partnership, mother load job training, economic development, the Board of Supervisors, city councils, the whole 9 yards all tie together. Right now, like I said, we provide that space for the water school to do their training there, but also we have not only our Tuolumne County Superintendent of Schools STEM office located in the Innovation Lab, it's also the Tuolumne County Workability Program. Those are for more the challenged youth, those that are having issues getting in, and we tie them together with our businesses who provide internships. So again, all of this can be worked on and implemented. Some of it already is implemented, some of it's already in place. This just brings it together into one big partnership and one big program that we can all come back and report to the Board of Supervisors here in the future, talking about, like Paul did, some of the successes we hope to have over the next few years.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. We're going to need some polling of the board to bring this back as an action item. So at that point, I would ask the board members to consider the support from the Board of Supervisors for this program, continuing support, not just a temporary thing, and to consider a member to sit on that board. Having said that, we need to provide some direction to staff to develop that. I'd like to poll to start with Supervisor Tofinelli.
I would support that.
Supervisor Garamendi.
Yep. Yes.
Supervisor Clapp.
I would support it, but I still want the other things that sit and be brought before the board too.
Turn your mic on for us.
We have several other things that's supposed to be coming in front of the board. Once is for the animals. So I would support, but I don't want to just keep putting everything else back and shoving stuff in front of what's already in front of the board. But I'd be for bringing it to the board. It was on 25 that we took off the agenda.
Item 25, we don't have an item, it's been taken off the agenda.
Yes.
Okay, we'll discuss that, but right now we're going to be talking about the polling of the board for the support for this program. Okay. Supervisor Mills?
Yes.
And I would make it unanimous. Is there any problem with the direction to staff to develop the resolution? Any questions on that? Seeing none, is there a timeline for that resolution? CAO Lutz, is it a 2-week, 4-week thing?
That's a fairly quick resolution that we could pull together. I would expect that we could have that at our next available meeting without an issue.
Okay. Judging from the consensus of the board, gentlemen, you have our support. Thank you very much for your presentation. You can clap. Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 10-minute break real quick. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have 3 more items, and I wonder if we could continue through the lunch hour to finish. Is there any objection by the board? Absolutely not. Any objection by the public? See, we care about you. All right, then, we'll continue through the lunch hour if it's required. Madam Clerk.
Item 22 is from the Agricultural Department. Authorize the board chair to sign the Work and Financial Plan 2017-18 with USDA APHIS Wildlife Services for the provision of services to eliminate predatory wildlife causing livestock loss and safety concerns, and, as time allows, to address nuisance wildlife complaints.
Mr. Anderson.
Good morning, Chairman Oliver and Board Supervisors, Administrators. I'm Kevin Wright, the Agricultural Commissioner for Calaveras County, and I'm happy to be able to come and talk a little bit about the California Wildlife Services program that we have established here in Calaveras County. I'd like to just fill you in a little bit on the history of this and how it goes, because some of you are new board members. 4 years ago, in July of 2014, the Board of Supervisors signed an agreement with Wildlife Services. This was a long-term 4-year agreement that was signed, like I say, in 2014. However, besides that long-term agreement, every year we have to come before the board and sign a plan. And this is kind of in conjunction with that 4-year agreement. It provides a little flexibility for everyone in case there's some issue with Wildlife Services that needs to be brought up and come before the board. You guys sign it. You have the opportunity today, if you wanted to, you could decline the services of Wildlife Services by giving them a 90-day notice. That's in our agreement. However, we don't recommend that. And let me just tell you a little bit more. The Wildlife Services specialist, he is an employee of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the United States Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service. And we contract with him to provide predatory wildlife control for bears, coyotes, nuisance animals such as raccoons, skunks, and foxes. He is a trained specialist, and he knows his job. He handles firearms, and he handles substances that can kill the animals and trap the animals. We provide funding through my budget for the amount of $67,700 for his services. Some of this is subsidized in the form of a gas tax return to us of 40%. And this is because it's in the agricultural budget and it's supported by CDFA, which is the state people, we are able to do that. So 40% of the $67,000 is returned to us in the form of a gas tax every year. Besides this, you can't put somebody in the field for $67,000 even, minus the 40%. You're talking putting somebody in the field for maybe what, 30 or 40,000. This is somebody in the field with a car and a gas and a trained person. So we are actually getting a tremendous bargain with this wildlife specialist. The Wildlife Services Department themselves also provides probably about $25,000 of their own money to keep the man in the field. So the whole program probably costs pretty much close to $90,000 or $100,000, of which the county actually winds up paying about $30,000 or $40,000. So the specialist has the skills and experience and the resources necessary to conduct biologically sound program. Not only does he trap and control animals, but he also provides other services, management services that might not necessarily involve killing of the animal, but may involve management practices that people can do to maintain their wildlife or their herds. Our specialists that we have now, over the past 4 or 5 years, we've had 3, and this is our last one is named Mike Williams, and he's had a lot of positive feedback from the community to my office. What my office does is we have the phone calls come into our office for wildlife complaints and needs. We dispatch Mike Williams to the sites. He also works in conjunctions with the state Fish and Wildlife Department, in that if it's a bear or a mountain lion, those require depredation permits, and the Department of Fish and Wildlife, which is a state agency, provides those permits. We've had nothing but positive feedback from the community to our office for Mr. Williams, and I recommend that we continue his contract for another year. I do have Mr. Williams here and his boss, Brian Popper, who is the area supervisor. So I'm going to ask Brian Popper to come up and talk a little bit more specifically about the program, followed by introduce you to Mike Williams himself. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Brian Popper. I'm the district supervisor for what we call our central district. The area we cover spans from Alameda County to the Nevada border, from Amador County down through Fresno. We provide technical assistance, which is somebody calls up, they've got a problem, they don't need us to come out, we can come out, or we can call them, or we can even come out to the site and tell them how to take care of their own problem, give them some advice on what to do. And we can do that for a number of animals. In my office, I get calls all the time about injured animals. So I act as kind of a relay and give people the information on who they actually need to call about getting those animals taken in to be rehabbed. We'll deal with public safety issues that may come up. It pretty much runs the gambit on just about any sort of wildlife issues that we will deal with. We provide, we are a federal agency, so we actually have resources across the country that we can rely on for providing us information on new techniques. If we get a new species that comes in that we haven't necessarily dealt with traditionally in California, we do have resources where we can contact people in other parts of the country, even other parts of the world, to find out what they've been doing, what are the successful techniques they've used, so we can try and implement them. We have a very good working relationship with with a lot of the state and local agencies who are responsible for managing our wildlife populations, and we work hand in hand with them. Most of our field employees, they are on a first name basis with their local game wardens, with their local fish and game, fish and wildlife biologists, and they use us quite often as a resource to determine predation incidents, what species may have been responsible, is it a problem that can be taken care of non-lethally, is it a problem that needs to be taken care of lethally, and we provide leadership in that. Do you guys have any questions about the program?
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Mike Williams. I'm the wildlife specialist for Calaveras County. I've been here since September, and it's been a pleasure working for the county and getting to know the community, and I look forward to keep working here and meeting all of you. If you do have any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are you here, stationed here in Calaveras, solely in Calaveras?
Yes,
Or-
sir.
So you're full-time?
Full-time Calaveras County.
You don't go to Amador, you don't go to...
No, Amador has its own specialist at this time.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Mike, I have a question. I believe you captured a small coyote Saturday or something in Rancho?
Yes.
Did you catch one this Monday morning too?
Not that I know of.
Oh, okay, because I think you were setting another trap to catch. There was 2 out there, I think.
Yes, this lady had, they were living on her porch basically.
Yeah.
Every morning they
On her
would-
front porch,
they
there
would
was-
greet her.
It was Laura Moses' house.
What did you do with it?
This particular animal was euthanized. It was mange. It had no hair on it, so it was very sick. So that's another thing we do is disease monitoring. Everything I catch gets sampled, sent to our disease lab so we can track diseases in the county. Try to keep a handle on this was mange, but rabies, distemper, kind of all that.
Mike, I will tell you that the emails I'm getting from my area are all positive, so you are having an effect,
Good.
a positive effect in the communities, and
Thank you.
your presence is being felt, so appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Mike, I introduced myself to you earlier, and I know service you provide is important to the ranching and farming community, and appreciate it. I've heard nothing but good things about your efficiency and willingness to work with people. So, welcome to Calaveras County.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mike.
Yes.
Thank you for your service, by the way, very much needed. Do you have any relocation programs when you're trapping these animals?
Unfortunately, if it's deemed a nuisance or depredating animal, state law doesn't allow us to relocate for potential disease issues. We're moving a sick animal somewhere else and introducing that disease elsewhere. And then at the very basic level, if it's a problem here, if we move it, it's going to be a problem there. We're just moving that problem on to somebody else.
Okay.
So,
But what about healthy animals?
if they've depredated, if they've killed livestock, no,
Okay.
there's no relocation.
Not a different issue. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any further questions? Thank you very much. Any further staff presentations?
Henning Schreiber, Animal Services. I'd like to endorse that contract as well. Our department gets constant calls regarding wildlife, and we always refer them to the ag department so that they can be served by the trapper. But we ourselves use his services as well. As you know, we deal with domestic animals, and we only deal with wildlife when there's a known or suspected exposure of a rabid animal. In the cases that we had where we had rabid raccoons that were tested and found positive for rabies, Mike went out there and went out of his way to help the community in those areas to get some peace of mind by either trapping or educating people about rabies in wildlife and what to do and what not to do in those cases. So I'm very happy that we have him, and I just can't support that he's very responsive and very amicable, which helps in our community as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Just one other thing. I just wanted to remind you that the money for his services is already included in the budget. And what just remains to be done is the signature on the one-year plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Any further public comment?
Sam Cook, Mountain Ranch District 2. I just want to say it's money well spent. So I would encourage you to continue the USDA participation here in the county.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Marty Crane, District 5. I recall a past board thought that if something from the wildlife came up and was interfering with your piece of life on your front porch or whatever, or is interfering with your sense of calm in your life, you should deal with it. you know, just deal with it. And I thought, if I was 82 years old, if I was right now, and a bear came up, I'm not going to deal with it. So it makes total sense. Thank you very much. You know, I'm not even going to deal with a skunk. Thank you.
So how do you deal with a skunk?
Go, Mike.
Don't let your dog go after it. Anyway, Bill Wilson, District 1, I would hope you renew this contract, and I'd look forward to any suggestions that he might have to remove some voles. We have a few.
Okay, thank you.
Might be a little small. I need a couple barn cats, actually.
I take care of skunks. I didn't know there was someone I could call. What you do is you get a plastic tablecloth after they're in their trap, and you sneak up on them, and they're going to spray all over, and you throw the plastic tablecloth over the trap, and then you pick it up and you put it in the back of your truck and you take it to the river on the other side, because they're always going to find their way back to my house. And then you just wait a couple of months and the smell goes away.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. Mike, you need an assistant?
Bonnie will volunteer.
Any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
It's moved by Supervisor Garamendi. I'm sorry, I missed a second. Second by Supervisor Clapp. No more further public comments, so I'll call for a vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed indicate by saying no. Hearing none, motion carries 5-0 unanimous.
We have to pay for Bonnie to be an assistant, yeah?
I'm going to have her make her instructor.
Volunteer assistant, yeah, Bonnie.
Item 23. Item 23 is from the Planning Department to approve Contract Amendment 1 for the Calaveras County Medical Cannabis Cultivation and Commerce Ordinance, EIR, with Ascent Environmental Incorporated.
Good morning, Peter Maurer with the Planning Department. This, as the clerk read, is an amendment to the contract. The purpose of this amendment is to handle the large number of responses that we received on the draft EIR and and to be able to respond to those comments. Not terribly excited about bringing this to you, but it's necessary, I believe, to get this done in the manner that we need to have an efficient and effective EIR to support the county's direction to adopt a ban ordinance. So the additional amount of money is, I think it's $49,800. This is not necessarily out of the ordinary on a controversial project such as this. Typically, a consultant will establish an amount saying this is what we expect to occur, but if the number of comments exceed these expectations, and that's normal part of the process for an EIR. I reviewed the original proposal by Ascent against the other proposers that we had, just to see, were they so off base, and it was pretty close. There was one that had budgeted quite a few hours more. They were also $20,000 more. So this is not out of the ordinary, and I believe it's appropriate. We have the money in our budget this year to handle this cost, and ask that you approve this contract. I have Chris Montank from Ascent Environmental here in the audience. If there's any questions you have of him, between the two of us, we can hopefully answer any questions you have.
Questions of Mr. Maurer from the board? Mr. Mills?
So, Mr. Maurer, how many hours do you think we're going to have into this EIR when we're done? Just a rough number. We don't have to have a final number yet.
I don't remember the total number of hours, but the
I saw 300.
300 hours was for the response to comments only.
So we don't know for sure exactly what
well,
our
I can go and
total's
look
gonna
at
be.
the total budget and the number of hours, but if 300 hours is about $49,000, and the original contract was $172. Not that good a mathematician in my head
That's
to figure out
okay.
what that
That's
is,
all right.
but we're, talking about probably, 1,000 hours.
About 1,000 hours then,
Something like that,
roughly?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Further question, Mr. Mauer? Supervisor Toffenelli?
So the 49,000 is for 300 hours?
Yes.
So you're saying they didn't have any hours in for review?
There were
If we've spent
four-
300 hours
No, the
for,
original, there were 40 hours that was budgeted for in the original contract for response to comments.
40 hours?
40 hours.
And nobody looked at that at the beginning of
We
the
looked at that.
contract and said, gee, the size of this, scope of this, 40 hours, it looks like there's going to be a change order coming for this contract. This 40 hours is I would assume no matter which way we went, ban or no ban, there would have been a lot of comments to the EIR. So I just kind of look in hindsight at this contract when we signed it, that 40 hours would have been very lacking on response time from this contractor.
We did look at that at the time that the contract was let, and we were comparing the proposals from the other consultants. Although it was the lowest of the proposals, it wasn't that far out of different than the other ones, other than the one that was $20,000 more, and they had estimated 200 hours. So the other ones were like 50 and 70 hours, something like that. So it wasn't out of the ordinary. We didn't feel it was unrealistic at that time. With 2020 hindsight, obviously, yes, we should have budgeted more for that at the time.
I just, I'm a contractor. That's what I do for a living. And if I bid a job, I don't get to go back and say, well, gee, I bid only doing this part of the project 40 hours, and gee, it took me 100 hours. I need to recoup. I mean, I eat it for 40 hours. That's what I had into it. Regardless how long it took me, I know going into it I have a job to do. So I'm a little bit leery on 300 hours over, and we had, it's 50 grand basically, that wasn't put into a contract on their part. The other question I have is, when will this be done? You gave us a month, and it's been a month now, back on the closing of June 14th. How long do we have before this is finalized?
I don't have a firm date. I expect to get the final, the completed response to comments within the next couple of weeks. We need to then review it internally as well as with our outside counsel. We're going to be doing that concurrently as soon as those, the draft responses are done. I know it's taking longer than anyone would like. I guess I would rather do it right the first time than rush it and have to go back and do it again. And I know that there is a very strong desire on the part of this board to adopt the ban ordinance as soon as we possibly can. We're doing the best that we can in order to do that. Going back to your comment about bidding a project, with an EIR, we never know how many comments we're going to get. If you're a contractor, you know how long it's going to take to build a building. You've done it enough, you know. With an EIR consultant, and this is standard in the business, there is always a contingency that the comments will exceed what is expected. And that contingency is always written into the contract that says, if they exceed the amount of time that we expect it to take, that we will need to come back for an amendment. And that was a provision in this original contract. And so it's different than, say, a construction contract.
I grant you that, I do, but then the question bears that who monitors that? Who monitors how many hours are put on it? I mean, is there a monitor from our end of it saying that you spent 5 people for 2 weeks on it? It equals that? How do we monitor the amount of time that's actually being spent?
I review all of the bills that come in, all of the invoices, to ensure that they have. I don't know, I mean, I have an idea how long it takes to respond to comments, but I haven't done it myself. That's why we hire a consultant to do that. My experience of working with consultants is that this is the amount of time necessary to respond to this number of comments. And the exact comment letters is
I
this
saw the
deck.
I saw, I'm aware.
You send. So this is out of the ordinary. And the technical details, the amount of challenging comments that have been submitted to us require an extra amount of work to make sure that we are responding in a manner that protects us from future legal challenge. And we fully expect that legal challenge is likely to come because of the controversial nature of where we're, what we're dealing with.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? Supervisor?
Yeah, there's been an effort in the community to flood us with complaints and stuff about the ER. It was actually a letter in the Valley Springs News encouraging people to write letters on it. So I understand where you're coming from. I know you've been just swamped. I think it's a plan that was put in place to try to just delay it. And so my hat goes off to you guys for the work that you're being done with. And I'll be supporting it too.
Further comments? I have a comment. Mr. Mauer, you're doing an excellent job. I understand your position explicitly, being in the consulting field in a different area, not building buildings, obviously, but you're absolutely correct. Your starting point is never your finishing point. Things happen. Contracts need to be reviewed when those things happen. I support your position, and I think you and your staff are doing a fine job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions of Mr. Mauer? We'll bring it open to public comment.
Marty Crane. I am honored to say that I am part of the Calaveras Planning Coalition. And as such, this group of people are from all over the county, and they are the only consistent voices and faces in our general plan process, which we all know has had an awful lot of planning directors and CAOs and supervisors. So having consistency and some sense of connectivity in this process is critical. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all to encourage people to read the EIR, the draft EIR. And if they see something they like or they are concerned with or they have a question with, I see no problem with encouraging the public to engage. I mean, that's why we put it out there. It's for the public to become informed and become aware. So there was no, to my understanding, there was never any intent to just campaign to flood this office with letters. No, it's engaging the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyway, Bill Wilson, District 1. Let's be clear, the delays, the deficiencies, and the cost overruns in this project are a direct result of choices made by this board. 3 supervisors directed staff in January to draft a ban ordinance. The subsequent decision to use this EIR that was commissioned for the draft permanent ordinance passed by the previous board in February of 2016 to support the new board's ban ordinance has resulted in considerable delays to the release of the DEIR. Scheduled for February was delayed until May. There are also significant technical and statutory deficiencies, omissions, internal inconsistencies, and lacks of evidence to support the conclusions within the DEIR. Now, Ascent Environmental is requesting an additional $50,000 due to unforeseen circumstances. People wanting to make comments about the deficiencies of it. Shame. Shame on them. Shame on them. They should never question anybody on this board. Anyway, 6 to 8 tasks at this time were requested, a total of amendment to $50,000 to this contract. Choosing to rely on this EIR that was paid for with cannabis application fees in violation of Prop 26, and that was commissioned for a permanent regulatory ordinance to approve a ban proposed nearly a year after that ordinance was passed, which contains numerous deficiencies, opens the county up to significant legal liabilities. But we all know that. We all know this is not ever going to get through without legal litigation. We're all aware of that. Continuing down this path toward a ban is physically irresponsible. It also borders on malfeasance. The county is looking at a $4.8 million first installment from Measure C taxes. While you want to throw that money out, after you've already spent it to balance last year's budget, we have another $4.6 million coming in December, maybe even more. Who knows? Anyway, I think the EIR is defunct. Sorry.
Thank you.
Ben Stopper, District 5. The current resolution states that all other sections of the original agreement between the county and Ascent are still in force. This includes Section 1.3, Performance and Standards, which states that the county at its sole discretion can decide to require contract to repeat work at no additional charge until it is satisfactory. If the county determines the contractor's work fails to meet the generally accepted level of competency or standard of care, it is clear that Ascent has failed to deliver a comprehensive, technically accurate, complete, and clear document with substantial evidence supporting its conclusions, as they said they would. Now they are requesting an additional $50,000 to respond to the comments that have highlighted the inadequacies of the work product they produced. Why should the taxpayers have to pay for the inability of this contractor to produce what they have said they would produce? They say they produce comprehensive analysis that can adapt to potential changes to the project. They should fulfill this commitment to the county and bring their comprehensive analysis and adaptability to bear in this project. Ascent Environmental is now requesting an additional $49,820 on top of the $172,127 the county has already spent, so they can respond to the comment letters that have pointed out the deficiencies of the work product produced by this contractor. Ascent should be direct to fix the various technical deficiencies and internal inconsistencies within the DEIR at no additional cost to the county. Furthermore, the county should reject this resolution and direct Ascent to use the already allotted 40 hours that have been set aside in the existing contract to incorporate the numerous data sets, impact analysis, and feasible mitigation suggested in the comment letters, bring the DEIR in line with scientific consensus that cannabis cultivation needs to be brought in line with existing state and local environmental regulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hello again, Sam Cook, Mountain Ranch. I guess a couple questions. Of the 64 questions, how many of them are duplicates? So what's the net? Is it net 64 or maybe net 6 or 7 or 10 or 12 that need to be answered? 2, why was a contract signed either from both ends saying, oh, only 40 hours to do an EIR? Who had their head in the sand? That's stupid. Anybody looking at something like that ought to figure out an EIR is going to take more than 40 hours. Okay, the next question is, all right, once we get all these answers from the $49,000 and get it all wrapped up again? Does it go back out for comment again? We go through the same cycle? And how many times do we go through the same cycle? When's it going to end, guys? When's the planning department going to finish with this EIR? Or does it take an act of God or what? Gets a little frustrating when you see we kick the can down the road, down the road, down the road. I sat in here a few weeks back when I heard the planning department say, oh, 4 to 6 weeks. Well, it's 4 to 6 weeks now. We're getting another, 4 to 6 weeks. How long are we going to do this? Thank you. Oh, and I would like to answer the questions of how many net items they have to look at. 64 or how many? And how many times do we have to review this?
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Board. Chris Metz, resident District 2. The current EIR Ascent has constructed does not meet their own standards and fails to meet a number of statutory requirements under CEQA. This, in turn, has opened up the county to severe legal liability. In finance and economics, there's a concept called sunk costs. The idea is that if the costs which have already been incurred and cannot be recovered should not be taken into account going forward. The county has invested $176,000 into a flawed EIR. To waste another $50,000 towards an EIR that has significant problems would be a grave mistake. I would encourage the board to deny Ascent's request and direct them to use the already billed 40 hours to incorporate the comments into the final EIR and to explore alternatives besides the ban, such as alternative number 3, laid out in the EIR. We've just overcome an $8.6 million budget deficit with the help of Measure C funds. Why waste an additional $50,000 into a failed EIR designed to ban cannabis? The county needs this revenue stream. Let's not throw it away. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. Any further public comment?
Trevor Whitkey, District 2, Calaveras Cannabis Alliance. So approving this resolution and continuing down the path towards a ban with this draft EIR is it's throwing good money after bad. Essentially, we'll be spending at this point, if this resolution gets approved, $250,000 to try and ban cannabis. Commercial cannabis that was just taxed, and that tax revenue that was brought in under Measure C in the last couple of months was used to close the significant budget deficit that we had. These revenues are literally the only revenues that are coming in that are going to address the long-term financial liabilities that the county faces. We heard about the unfunded pension liability. We also heard about the reduction in overall property taxes. These larger costs that are being incurred by the county and losses in revenue need to be addressed, and Measure C is the only way that we have to address these issues. Now, choosing to spend $250,000 to eliminate what will turn into an annual tax revenue stream of $12 million based on what has already been collected from the first installment of Measure C funds is simply bad policymaking. And I would encourage the board to look at the contract, particularly the section 1.3 in the previous contract that says that Ascent has to do work that they promised that they would do without incurring additional cost, and that is within your discretion as the board. The county can direct Ascent to go back and actually produce the work that they said they would do. The California Department of Transportation comment letter identified specific deficiencies within the traffic analysis, flaws in the assumptions and the modeling used by Ascent, saying that it does not meet their standards for how they do traffic analysis. These are serious deficiencies that are being identified by stakeholders across the county. The problems that were identified by the Calaveras Planning Coalition, specifically the potential impacts that have not been adequately analyzed, and the fact that argument, speculation, unsubstantiated opinion does not constitute substantial evidence. I would say that the draft EIR does make all of those claims. It is unsubstantiated evidence to support alternative 3. Furthermore, they also talk about the draft EIR ignoring feasible mitigation strategies. We think that all of these strategies should be taken into consideration, and that county stakeholders have come together and commented on this draft EIR, and there is a clear path forward for the board to not have to incur unnecessary expense in this process.
Thank you. Further comment?
Bill McManus, Hanford Hill. It seems like history is being rewritten here. When this EIR was first approved, that was back during the days when you were looking to do kind of another urgency ordinance, a grow and regulate ordinance, and that was kind of the genesis as I remember it. Somewhere after that, when the board decided that perhaps a ban ordinance would be the better way to go, you looked at the EIR and asked Peter Maurer, can we use portions of it? Can we modify it? Can we go forward with it? And Mr. Maurer said yes. And so the emphasis was shifted to include what a ban would do to the county, and made that part of the EIR. Now that they're complaining about it, it seems kind of odd, but the EIR was completed, or is completed, and it remains the number one alternative. Is to ban commercial marijuana. So I do agree, though, and it always resonates when Supervisor Tofinelli talks about being a contractor. I've never been able to go back and say, I really screwed up on this contract. Could you give me some more money, please? That DNA doesn't seem to exist in government. It's always, well, let's do it, whatever the cheapest is, the lowest bid. And the lowest bid always ends up costing more money because the lowest bidder forgot a bunch of stuff. So if you're putting contracts out, there ought to be some requirement for government officials to take business courses and contract negotiation, not just legal negotiation, but contract negotiation, where you don't get hosed every time you sign a contract. And if someone says, well, we've got 40 hours built into that, and then you walk in and you got a big stack of papers, as Mr. Maurer talked about, at that point, do you say, yeah, go ahead, we'll see about getting you paid later? Or do you say, whoa, wait a minute, maybe we better put this in front of a decision maker before we take on this, give you more work, going through 40 comments or whatever, and paying you $50,000 to do it. I know that's an odd concept. I know it's a foreign concept, but I'm hoping that maybe this will be the turning point for Calaveras County, where boards now and in the future will actually use sound management techniques to run the county, and not just give a bank, open up the bank book and say, anyone who screws up, come on ahead, we'll make it right for you, and thanks a lot, and move on from there. So I'm glad to hear that it's almost over. I don't think I heard a definitive answer that it's going to be over. Hopefully this will be the last change order you get on this, and if there's going to be any more changes, maybe that company should come forward and say, we left out another part. Here's what we need to do. Do you want us to do it, and will you pay us if we do?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Further public comment? Oh, Mr. Cook?
I guess,
Mr. Cook, sir,
Sam Cook Mountain Ranch.
we only get one shot at this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
It was just a question.
Okay.
I'm kind of sorry I wrote a letter.
So are we.
It's really a dilemma, and I pity you guys.
Why, thank you.
It's just a really hard thing you're doing, and I would never do it. But you guys know how I feel about it, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Sir?
One thing seems to be being overlooked by members of the board as well as members of the public as to why this additional expense exists. As has been mentioned, the original contract was written in June of 2016. or signed then, which was for a different purpose. And then later this year, this board, a majority of, decided that they wanted to change course and to use a construction analogy and a contract analogy. It's as if you had a contract to build a building and then decided you wanted to add a wing on that building that wasn't in the original contract. And, well, naturally that changes things. So a lot of the comments and a lot of, I believe, are a result of shortcomings of trying to hastily patch a fix into a document that was designed for a different purpose. And I believe that is what, in fact, it says so in your agenda item. I just wanted to point that out for people who don't understand why there's more time being added. It was a decision of this board that ultimately led to that, in my opinion. But that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comments? Mr. Maurer, looks like you need to speak.
Well, there was a request to respond to a couple of questions. Of the 64 individual comment letters, a lot of those were duplicates, but most of those comment letters raised numerous comments. It wasn't just a single comment. In some cases, they were 12, 14, 20 pages long, and they raised several dozen different comments, each of which has to be responded to. As far as the process, this is the next step in the process of responding to the comments. At that point in time, once the response to comments is completed, then the final EIR is released, and then we begin the hearing process. So this is not an endless loop. The only reason it would be recirculated would be if the results of the response to comments raise new issues that weren't addressed. As far as people's comments about the adequacy of the document, there's a lot of opinion out there. People are posturing for the position that they would like the county to take on this, and the EIR is intended to be an informational document, not necessarily supporting one or another action, but looking at what the consequences of whatever action is taken. And for those who support one action or another, they are pointing out what they believe to be not supporting their position and finding ways to support that recommendation that they would like you to make. The response to comments will address any of the perceived deficiencies. I do not believe that there was any malfeasance on the part of the consultant. We worked closely together. We worked with outside specialists. We worked with outside counsel to come up with what we felt was an adequate and responsive document. And we believe that the end result will pass legal muster to support whatever decision you decide to take. I don't have anything else unless you have any questions of me.
I would like to reference that the milestone timeline that was presented in the board packet. So we'll be completing milestone 6 then in about 2 weeks. And I can repeat it. It's submit administrative responses to comments and MMP.
Yes.
So that's about 2 weeks. Then we have 2 weeks for comments to the administrative final EIR. Would that be correct? That's an additional 2 weeks? So there's 4 weeks. Then you have a publishing of the final EIR. That's 1 more week. That's 5 weeks. And then submitting the draft findings, fact statement of overriding considerations. That's 2 more weeks. That's 7 weeks. Is that
So
correct?
we will be working on the finding of facts sort of concurrently with the review by the Planning Commission. So ultimately, depending on the final action of the board, that will be what the findings of facts will be prepared to support.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get to then is that the Planning Commission may not hear this until September.
I am hoping that we can get it heard in August. But a lot
Okay.
depends on
Late
internal
August.
review.
Okay, late August, early September.
I had initially hoped it would be the first meeting of August. After looking at the calendar, I think that late August is, the second meeting of August is probably the most likely.
Which means this board will see it in September, possibly October.
I would do my best to get it to you in September.
Okay, just so everybody kind of understands what the timeline is. That's the only purpose of the discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Further question, Mr. Mauer? Mr. Mauer, I have a question.
Sure.
Regarding the EIR, it has to be done right. Because if it's defective, the risk to the county is tremendous by lawsuits brought by either side of this argument.
Absolutely.
So we need to commit to do this properly and legally. And that has a cost attached to it. As I stated before, things change. Contracts, we talked about contractors. And somebody, in fact, two people on this board mentioned change orders. That's exactly what change orders are for. When that situation changes, now, no offense, Mr. Tofanelli, you're a contractor. You've bid projects. You bid jobs. You have your expenses, you have a profit margin, and you have future growth. But when something comes up that you're not aware of, maybe because you didn't do a proper procedure in your bidding process, or something totally unknown, that requires a change order. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what we have here. Something unknown, something that we could not foresee. We don't come with crystal balls. We come with reality. Now, I'm not trying to make an argument for either for and against this issue. It's the procedure and something that we need to do as a county, and that is do it right. Because God knows we know how to do it wrong. We've experienced that. Keep up the good work, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple comments.
Sure.
First off, this change order, so to speak, coming to us is not a change order on the product. The product was the EIR, and the changes came in the EIR. Nothing came back to us saying from the contractor, you've changed the scope of the EIR. We need this much more money to correct the scope. That would be a change order, which would be to change to the scope of the work. This is a change order coming back to pay for additional hours to respond to the comments, which we were going to have comments no matter what the product ended up being. So I have to say a little bit different on what's being talked about here. We were paid for, much like several other things that we've had comments about, for a document. That was the basic contract for. Now, to have 40 hours, if I had 40 hours in making sure after the project was done for go-backs because something wasn't working or whatever, that I would have 40 hours. I couldn't go back and say I need more time for that. That would be it. But here we are, and I'm in complete agreement, and I've been in complete agreement in some other things that I've been involved with the county that had to do with the jail, that we need a product that we can deliver that is defensible and what we paid for. So I'm going to support this simply on the fact that we need the documentation, we need it done, we need it done correctly, and we need it done defensively. I just questioned why we're getting a change order for that, being the original product never came back to us and said we need a change order because you're now changing the direction that you gave us as the product as a whole.
I understand your position.
Understand what I'm saying? So,
Supervisor Garamendi?
Thank you very much. I'm not happy with this, and I'm well on the record of my opinion, but, I also feel like my primary responsibility is to protect this county. And certainly having adequate responses to the EIR questions is a key element in our defense to the absolutely inevitable lawsuits that are going to follow. And this will be eventually seen in the rearview mirror as a drop in the bucket, but a important step that we have to take. And I have to have faith in our council and our staff that we're doing everything we can to protect the county as a result of where we're going.
I agree. Thank you. Any further comment by the board members? Further comment by public? One time at this. We'll only get one time, sir. Fair for the goose, fair for the gander. Ah,
Careful,
Mr.
Bill.
Segala, thank you. How are you?
I woke up. These are my comments. It's not from the Taxpayer Association. There's some good points that have been made here. In the far past, when I was younger, I was a contract administrator for a public entity, and my job was to review contracts and work with consultants, and I learned a lot about contracts. If it's specified in the contract, a particular thing, and what evolves is something different, there's reason for a change order. If you have a unit price, say you have a price per hour for reviewing letters, and the unit price is estimated for 40, and it turns out to be many times that, you use the unit price. You still need a change order because you're changing the funds for the contract. So it looks like it was specified there'll be 40 hours for this work. Okay, and it expanded way beyond that. It is logical and proper that there be a change order for the work. And to me, that's really clear. What a deeper problem here, in my opinion, is we've taken a regulation that's designed to allow people to grow cannabis and not harm the neighbors, and we changed that to a ban, and yet we use the same environmental review process that you use for that, for a ban. I don't even know a ban needs an EIR. You're banning something, how could you don't know the consequences of a ban. You don't even know how many people are in that trade. You don't know how many properties are involved. You don't know what the reaction to a ban will be. You don't even know if the ban can be enforced. All these unknowns you got there. So you're going to ask environmental review to see what the consequences would be? Well, it's true. It looks like this is going to go into litigation. And unfortunately, it could have been avoided by just using zoning process. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Mr. Folger?
Afternoon, Mark Bolger, Mountain Ranch, Rimrock Farms. I'm not going to weigh in on whether I think the county should pay the $50,000. I don't think you really have a choice. I mean, you have to answer these questions. I, for one, can say that, I didn't take hours out of my day after working long days to compile my questions. Whether or not I agree with Asset Environmental's statement that the ban is the most environmentally friendly alternative, it's a moot point. I think that, we've got the bones of a document here. Some folks agree with them, some don't. I still have faith that that document can be used for a regulatory scheme that will benefit this county. I hope that some of my comments are considered, and maybe they'll look into them, and maybe it's something we can use effectively going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Garamendi. Second. Second by Supervisor Clapp. No further public comment. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed indicate by saying no. Motion carries 5-0, unanimous. Madam Clerk.
Item 24 is from the Board of Supervisors to appoint the appointment of applicants to serve on various committees, commissions, advisory boards, and county service areas. Before you today, we have one application for one vacancy. It's for County Service Area 1, Rancho Calaveras. This vacancy was advertised on May 31st, and it's for a term expiring 12/31/2019. We have an application from James Van Zant.
Anybody familiar with Mr. Van Zandt? Turn on your, thank you, Supervisor Clapp. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
he's a retired commander in the Navy, and he's a retired professor from the University of San Francisco. He's very qualified for what I need.
Thank you. Any further comments? Comments by the board? Public comment? Seeing no public comment, bring it back to the board. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Clapp.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Tofinelli. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed indicate by saying no. Motion carries 5-0, unanimous.
Thank you. Supervisor announcements. In compliance with AB 1234, chaptered as Government Code Section 53232.3D, this is the time for board members to report on meetings attended on behalf of the county and to carry out their duties as a county supervisor.
Start with Supervisor Clapp. You have your mic on?
I did.
You do.
Anyway, I attended my IHSS meeting. It went fair. And I spent a whole day up in your district, Mike.
I didn't get the phone call.
No, I had lunch with Bertha. Anyway, I went to, it was Calaveras Community on Aging, attended a meeting there. It was good. And then while I was there, I went to White Pine Bridge and checked out the bridge, and I was glad to see that. Then I've had complaints about Big Tree's entrance. I went up there, and it seems like they're doing a decent job for, having to tear up the forest. And I went into Big Tree's and confirmed that the big tree did fall over. So that was that.
We lost the monster.
Yeah. And I did go down to Cedar Road where the no parking signs is. I forgot all about it. Otherwise, I'd have went and seen that too. But anyway, I was up in your district. You have a beautiful district. And so I talked to the Commission on Aging to have their meeting there at the same time next year so I can enjoy all the stuff up there. And the tourist turnout, it was great. A lot of people. So you have a good district.
We've got a fine district. Thank you, Supervisor Clapp. Supervisor Mills.
First of all, I'd like to thank the board for putting me on another panel, item number 6, the hearing panel for the local enforcement agency. June 15th, I got to go back that far. Thursday, attended the chamber mixer at Lake Comanche with CCWD Director Russ Thomas. And June 16th, attended Murphy Sanitary District meeting to discuss negotiations with Hay Station Ranch taking water from the district. Met with Nancy Giddens to look over an alternative location for the library in Angels Camp with friends of the Angels Camp Library and the proposed landlord. June 19, met with Sheriff, including Staff CO and Supervisor Tofinelli as previously reported, and then attended Congressman McClintock's town hall in Jackson where I discussed his efforts to reopen the U.S. forest roads such as Spicer and Boards Crossing. Remember, that's when his staff wanted a letter of support. June 20th, attended Angel City Council meeting, discussed some of the challenges facing the city in their budget process. June 21st, met with representatives of CSA4 over storm damage to their roads and options to work with county staff in making any repairs. We do have a meeting set up next week with county staff to do that. Attended the Calaveras Amador McCullough River Association meeting, discussed positions of support or opposition to state legislation. This would be 1654, AB 1668, the Trailer Bill 810, and reviewed AB 401. This is the Low Income Assistance Program that CCWD and other districts in our county may be able to make use of, as well as AB 524, that's the Butte Fire money from the PUC fine. Attended Union Public Utilities District meeting. Utica water and power contribution will be lower than expected, with some discussion on the Angels Powerhouse will be under a remat contract first. For those people that are in UPUD water, their $12 a month surcharge is going to be reduced to $7 a month. Thank you, Diane, right? June 22nd, testified before the Little Hoover Commission at the request of the California Special Districts Association. Summary was to emphasize many areas of rural counties do not have internet capability, and the website, for transparency reasons, would not be cost effective. Discussed difficulty in civic engagement in rural counties for small districts, and the special districts have very limited direct representation on local LAFCOs. They're like trying to find a way to add at least one more special district to LAFCO. Budget hearings in Angels Camp again over Angels Camp Business Association, Destination Angels Camp, Friends of the Library, a report from the museum, and a presentation by the police department. Friday, June 23rd, attended the required training for illness, injury, and prevention program to review protocols and policies as a result of the recent board of supervisors decision. Monday, June 26th, met with the Angels Camp Planning Director over transit, COG, and opportunities to improve marketing and accessibility to transit with tourists and local users in especially the Angels Camp area. Thursday, June 29th, met with John Benoit of LAFCO to discuss and review district spheres and boundaries. And then I kind of took some time off. July 5th, attended the chamber breakfast with our CAO speaker on budgets, and got a great response to that. Might want to note that New Maloney's is holding at 11.5 feet from the top, and they're doing a great job over the last week of maintaining that level. So if they can do that and the inflows continue as they are, they will be able to keep it from spilling. I'd like to thank Mr. Banner and Environmental Health for the work that they've done in the past few days of identifying and trying to put together a process on mitigating our environmental impacts. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Mills. Supervisor Tofinelli?
Yeah, I'm not going to go. I attended all. I guess I better turn this on. You're welcome, Susan. I attended all my various meetings and committee meetings, but the one I want to bring up, talk about is COG. Melissa Eads, who was the longtime executive officer of COG, moved on at the end of May, so we had some recruitment to do. I was on a committee. There was a member from the city and the chair of COG conducted interviews. We had some really outstanding people that applied for the job. We whittled the number down. I think we got 10 applications, and we whittled that down to 6, and we interviewed 6, and they were all outstanding, all well qualified. And of the 6, we got down to 4. So on the 17th, the COG board will be convening here at 5 p.m., I think it is, to interview 4 candidates for that position. And they are all very well qualified. I was really impressed with the quality of people that applied for that job. I think Calaveras will do very well in selecting any of the 4 that will be presented on next Tuesday. Wednesday the 17th, excuse me. So
Supervisor
that's all I
Tofinelli.
have to report.
Supervisor, is that a public meeting?
Yes, it is a public meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Supervisor Garamendi?
Thank you very much. Chairman Oliveira, I also visited District 3. Granted, mine was with the fishing pole. But it is
Take any of
beautiful.
our fish?
As many as I could possibly get. I didn't have so much luck, but it is beautiful. Thank you. I wanted to take my time to I wanted to poll the board on something that I'd like to bring forward to the board. Primarily ask directing staff to begin the preparation of an increase to our TOT, transit occupancy tax, for the next year, knowing that it takes a while to do all the work, get everything lined up, put together a plan, and then bring it back to the board. I wanted to see if there was interest in directing staff to begin that process, because it's certainly something it'd be nice to have in place before next year's budget cycle. So I would ask at your discretion, Mr. Chair, if it'd be all right to do that polling to start the process.
I would start the poll, but I'd like to mention as an add-on or maybe a addendum, if you will, the structure of how those funds from TOT are distributed throughout the county and agencies. I know we have an existing ordinance with that now. Maybe we could look at that also if the board would like to. I don't know if that's, council, is that regulated by law?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The transient occupancy tax, that is designated funds to several organizations now, is that correct?
I believe it's 3. I do not believe that it's set by ordinance. I know that it's not set by ordinance.
Okay.
We've been doing some research to find out where it was, in fact, established, the thirds. So far, we have not found a resolution or other document that actually lays that out, but we're still looking at it.
I'll hear your point of order.
I believe the only way you can change the transit occupancy tax is through another vote of the people to bring forward to them.
The percentage of what the TOT is would obviously have to go back to the people because it is a tax and the people would have to approve a tax. What the board is referring to is the distribution of what we get in for TOT, how it's distributed amongst various departments and how the board wants to spend the TOT tax.
I'm sorry, council, go ahead. Finish.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to find an ordinance. Historically, the only place that money went was into the general fund, but historically, the board always distributed a third, between Public Works, CBB, and the Sheriff's Office, because they felt that that would cover where those funds were coming in from. The additional road work for the tourists coming in, going through the Sheriff's Office, for any crime that would occur because of the tourists coming in, and then to advertise Calaveras County. So I don't think it's ever been on an ordinance. It's just been historically, we've designated a third.
I would just like, my poll is just to begin the process, not to debate how we're going to use it all. But since we do have roughly 10 months till the next election, and I'm recognizing that there's certain statutory things, if we could direct staff to do that, begin gathering the information and put the effort into it.
Okay, thank you. I'll conduct a poll. I'll start with Supervisor Clapp. Would you turn on your microphone for me? Thank you.
I would go for that.
Supervisor Mills?
Yes.
Supervisor Tofinelli?
Yes.
Supervisor Garamendi?
Yes.
And Supervisor Oliveira, Chair? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I have a second item I'd like to poll the board on, and that is taking a look at the sales tax for become a self-help county, and similar to the TOT, directing staff to begin analysis and drafting of what it would take to put such a ordinance on the ballot next year. And this is direct specifically to become a self-help county to take advantage of the transportation funding from the state.
Okay. Everybody clear on that?
For clarity.
Supervisor Mills?
For clarity, SB1 is very adamant that you need to be a self-help county if you're going to be a participant with the majority of the funds. It looks like those that are not will be locked out. How that looks, whether it be in the form of a sales tax or other methods, or are other methods to use, I would ask staff to look at all of the various methods by which we would encumber funds, and that's literally what it would be. And if it's nothing more than encumbering reserve funds, it could be that method. But I would ask that you not look just at the tax side of it, but whatever method is necessary for us to be designated as a self-help county.
Any further discussion on that poll? Supervisor Tofinelli?
I would agree with Supervisor Mills that we would direct staff to explore all possibilities, because it's very possible if you're going to increase the TOT and you designate those increased funds to our road system, that may qualify us as a self-helping. So,
further discussion? Polls, start with Supervisor Clapp.
I'll be for it, but it comes back to, again, that, we're just keeping putting stuff on the agenda, and the stuff that I put on in January is still sitting there. So all I'm doing is, I'm just putting all my stuff back farther and farther on the calendar, and nothing's getting done to it. So, I like to get some way where, where I'm putting something on and it's just not keeping up down the road. So, but I understand where Supervisor is coming from, and I agree with him.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Mills?
Yes.
Supervisor Tofinelli?
Yes.
Supervisor Garamendi?
Yes.
Supervisor Oliveira, Chair? Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it's my turn. My computer went dark on me, folks. Yeah. Of course, the 4th of July was an exciting time for everybody, an enjoyable 3-day holiday, 4-day holiday. Fortunately, we didn't have too many emergencies in the county. I was very happy with that. I did attend several social functions, barbecue, which I presented at as your board chair and as a District 3 supervisor. Yesterday, I spent time in Sacramento for the tree mortality on the governor's task force. We had some very good information come out of that meeting. There is a local task force meeting for Calaveras County that we hold on the Wednesdays, which will be tomorrow. Where I'll disseminate the information, but I can say that the revised budget from the governor did put additional monies towards the tree mortality program on a statewide level to the amount where it's at least recognizable. If you'll recall, the budget of $50 million for the tree mortality on a statewide level was reduced by $48 million. And that money was actually designated for CAL FIRE for fighting our fires that we're experiencing right now. So it wasn't really taken away from that, but it was just redirected towards the need, we're told. But we do have a substantial amount coming for tree mortality, which Calaveras County will receive a portion of because they're one of the 10 high-risk counties. I am going to be representing Calaveras County with NACO, National Association of County Organizations, on a national level next week. I will not be here for the next meeting due to the fact I'll be in Columbus, Ohio. Vice Chair Garamendi will be taking over duties for chair at that time. And I want to take an opportunity to clarify something that was brought up earlier today in public speaking. Mr. McManus, I want to thank you for bringing that subject up regarding my family member. I want the public to know that that was properly vetted, discussed with county council, and we found that to be proper in my performance as a board supervisor. As far as my family member, he also was a Marine. His integrity is probably just as good as mine. I would not put this county at risk for those reasons. Thank you very much for joining, folks. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.